Okay. So just to recap what we did in module 1, in part 1 and in part 2. In part 1, we were looking at the word yes. We were talking about the very beginning of every constellation or every movement is acknowledging what is represented in a yes. We were talking about the first dynamic in family systems that we are discussing. That was reparation for my sins. And did we talk about anything else? We had some lovely exercises. Yes, Rosemary?
Rather me than you.
That was in part 2. Yeah. So in part 2, yesterday we talked about the second word, which is please, and the importance of the word please and how we use it and how often we use it. Then we have, Charlotte is just coming in. Charlotte, do you have video today? Oh, you do. Hello. You got video today. That's fantastic. Okay, now I got you all here.
Very big bags because it's 6 a.m. still.
Hey?
Bye. It's very big bags because it's 6 a.m.
Yeah. Well, that's not too inhumane, isn't it?
No, you're right.
No. Okay, so I'm just recapping this module. So yesterday we talked about please, the importance of please, how often we apply please, when do we not apply please. We were also talking about the second dynamic in family constellations, rather me than you. You remember we talked about entanglements and what an entanglement is, and I made you this little artwork. I hope the visual was helpful to understand that in an entanglement we always have 3 persons. Yeah? Okay, so in a nutshell. And we talked about fatal disease, and we had this interesting constellation with Rosemary. Rosemary, how do you go after yesterday?
I know you would like to hear. It's all cleared, and I'm completely
not overnight. Oh, Gottes, no, I was just your emotional state was more of my interest.
Oh, it didn't really affect me.
Ah, yeah.
Did you expect me? Did you expect it to affect?
Could be. Could be.
Or maybe I didn't dwell on it.
That's good. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you.
So, and then today we are now talking about the third word, or it's actually in German one word, because it's danke. But in English it's actually 2 words, but we call them together a word. It's thank you. Or thanks, maybe thanks is 1 word. So if you think of it like this. And then, of course, we're talking about the third dynamic. So what would that be? And then also today we are talking about the morphogenetic field. We're talking about the morphogenetic field resonance healing. We're talking about our third word, thank you. The third dynamic that we are looking at is yes?
There's something in the middle of the screen. Is it just me or is everyone else seeing it?
Oh, what is it?
Like hiding. Yes, it's gone now.
Is this gone now? That's strange.
It is now on the corner right and bottom.
Yeah, I see that too. It's shifting around my
how does that look?
Schwarze Balken.
It's like a block, gray block that's
ja, ein dunkelgrauer Balken auf der rechten Seite vom
That's so bizarre because this is just your videos screens. Why can't you see them? That's the first time, isn't it? You normally don't see them, right?
I don't know if you can see, like there's a block there at the top and like there's block here too.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, as long as it's not on top of the writings, that should be fine. Okay. So
yeah, it moved now, so we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we are good. Okay. I follow you as the third dynamic we are talking about today. We are also talking about traumas today. Today is, by the way, really full, very full teaching content. So we try to go through it all. So you have it on your video recordings, and don't spend too much time on questions today. We can do that in the next training gatherings. And then finding what meant with word, gestures, eyes, and movement. That's basically what we're going through today. So it's a real, the practical work in this module, and especially today, that you need to know how to see dynamics, what gives it away in the way the representatives are showing you that. Okay, so let's start with the first topic, the morphogenetic field. Also sometimes abbreviated the morphic field, same thing. You can also sometimes it is called the informative field, or the field of information, or the informative field is also another word for it, or just briefly the field, right? So that means all the same thing. So where does it come from, what it is? It has been made popular by Rupert Sheldrake. He is, who knows Rupert Sheldrake? Hands up. 1, 2, 3, half, wonderful. So he is he's a great scientist. He is a biologist. He's English, he's British. He's done great footages on YouTube, but also a great book. So if you're interested, there is lots that you can study for him. And he had made some experiments with and observations with animals, and he found out that there is a common behavior in a, let's say, in a group of animals. They belong together. For example, a breed. So if you think, or a family of, or school of fish or something. If you think the best example to make that visible is to think of birds when they, hundreds of thousands of birds, when they fly up in the sky and they want to head south in winter, right? They want to head south. They are forming. And what you can see that they are in the cloud, you can see only a huge cloud of birds, which are all individuals, tiny little individuals. And they are almost touching, but they are not, otherwise they couldn't fly. And that's a mystery in itself, how that works. And then more surprisingly is that they all turn in one instant, right? They change direction in one instant. And then Rupert Sheldrake has asked himself, how is that possible? Because if it would be communication, there would be a lag, a latency, a lagging, right? Because one bird from one side has to communicate to the next, to the next, to the next, and they would not possibly turn all at once. And that is the same with the school of fish. For example, when a big fish comes and there are thousands of little fish, and a big fish comes and wants to hunt, then they open up a channel for him, so they can never grab one, right? It is like a wall that's opening up wherever the fish is. So this is also impossible to communicate because there's simply no time. It happens all at the very same moment. So what Rupert Sheldrake found out with observation and experimenting is that they are not communicating about where they want to go, that they are all accessing the same information where to turn at the same moment from a field of information that is outside of them. And this is what he calls, or what has been called, I don't know whether he invented this term, the morphogenetic field. So there needs to be a group that have a common interest, yeah, and they can access, if they need to, the information from the morphogenetic field. And when we are thinking in terms of family constellation, then we know that the family system has a common interest, right? Survival of their own family, and make the love flow, because the love is nourishing the family. Otherwise, the family branch would die. And that is what we see when we're in an actual family constellation, how the representatives or the facilitator, even the client, is accessing an information from the informing field as a natural ability. So nobody needs to learn it. Nobody's excluded from it. It's absolutely natural. And why can the representative access this information, and not only the family members, is only because They are helpers, if you will. They are agreeing to it. They are putting themselves into the field through participation and intent. That's all it's needed. Participation and intent. And then everyone can access this information, even if they have never done it before, or even if they feel a little bit of a resistance because they're in their mind. That doesn't matter. The information can be accessed and will be accessed anyhow. So, before we go into more details how the morphogenetic field works in a family constellation, I would like you to listen to Rupert Sheldrake. I have prepared his very brief YouTube video that I will share with you. And I hope the sound is coming through. Just let me know. Is the sound coming through?
Morphic resonance is a connection across time from the past to the present. And it's a process that occurs between organized patterns of activity on the basis of similarity. What it means, in effect, is that each species has a kind of collective memory. So every giraffe tunes in by morphic resonance to the form and to the behavior of previous giraffes. Every crystal, as it crystallizes, tunes in to the way that previous crystals of the same chemical crystallized in the past. So there's a kind of memory given by morphic resonance in all kinds of things. And in the realm of animal behavior, for example, it leads to quite striking predictions. If rats learn a new trick here in London, then rats all around the world should be able to learn the same trick quicker, just because the rats have learned it here. The more that learn it, the easier it should get everywhere else. And there's already evidence that this actually happens from studies of rats in laboratories. When lots of rats have learned something, other rats all around the world find it easier to learn. And this doesn't depend on any normal kind of connection between the different rats or the places. It happens because of morphic resonance on the basis of similarity. The same applies to crystals. When a new chemical is made for the first time, it's usually very hard to crystallize it. And as time goes on, it gets easier to crystallize all around the world. And I think the reason for this is that morphic resonance connects up the crystals so they tune into a kind of collective memory. So morphic resonance works through morphic fields, the organizing fields of chemicals and biological systems. And the word morphic comes from the Greek word for form. So it's a kind of resonance to do with form, pattern, and organization.
Right. So, have you been able to hear and see him clearly? Very good. Okay. Well, it will be recorded anyhow, and you can also, of course, Google Rupert Sheldrake. Lots of footage on YouTube. So let's recap. Oh, hang on. I have to close this. What the heck is going? Where's the music coming from? I can't find it anywhere. Let me just check.
YouTube is still playing, maybe?
Right. Here we go. So, what is interesting is what he said at the end, right? It is a resonating field, so it is resonating, and it has to do with organizations. Yeah, remember when we talked about the family system, we talked about fields that are organizing and then become a system, because only when it's organized, it can be a system. Otherwise, it would be chaotic. Yeah. So the field itself is there, but now we need it organizing to become a system. And when we have a system, and that's the same with fish, that's the same with a flock of birds, that's the same with the rats, the family of rats, or whatever or crystals, or whatever he was using as an example. Once they get organized, they can access this resonating field, the morphogenetic field. So this is why not only a family system can access their own morphogenetic field, also a group of, let's say, religious people can access their own morphogenetic field, right? And then there's maybe a sports club. They also have, they are organized, they also have a resonating field. So you take part in many morphic fields, right? But you are not aware of it, and you're not accessing deliberately. Yeah, that is happening naturally. But in a family constellation, we access the morphogenetic field of the family system deliberately, and that's maybe the difference. And that's also maybe the difference of, yeah, you know, to all the examples you had from the animal kingdom or from the plant kingdom, is that the humans as individuals can also represent. So this is why we have a family constellation workshop. We can, or in a one-on-one situation with figurines, we can represent other members of the family system, also those who are long gone. So that's maybe something that you don't find in an animal kingdom. Why not? Maybe the rats come together into family constellation. Who knows? But that is not very likely. So this is a specific trait we have, and that is wonderful that we can use it in order to apply that what heals. Now I'm going back to my charts, to my sheets, so we can continue here. So what was now? Oh no, I pressed accidentally. Okay, let's do it again. All this technique. All right. So I hope it's not still. What is now wrong here? Let me just check. What's going wrong here? Okay, now. So we watched the YouTube video, and we talked a bit about it, how it works in family constellations. There is another video where Rupert Sheldrake talks about the morphogenetic field in family constellations. Now, Rupert Sheldrake and Bert Hellinger, they have met. I don't know exactly when it was. In the 2000s, I think it was. Early 2000s, because at that stage Bert Hellinger understood that the work that he's doing is actually based on this biological phenomenon of the morphogenetic field. And they also, I think they wrote a book together or something, so they had much in common. So Rupert Sheldrake was very interested in his work as well, and he did this video, which is more about, it's longer. I don't want to play it here, but you can watch it if you want to, and you will see the link anyhow when you rewatch the video recordings. Then you have more time to watch it. So I would highly recommend that you watch it. It is the informing field and how it resonates with people. Now I want to talk a little bit about that. So this morphogenetic field resonance healing is not a term from Rupert Sheldrake, neither from Bert Hellinger. It's something that I have came up with because I think that is actually how we work with family constellation, because we are using the morphogenetic field, and which is resonating with the representatives. Some people call them also resonators, by the way, not especially in America. I've heard this expression for the representatives. Yeah, and through this we apply healing, or healing is taken place. Let's put it that way. So when we are in a family constellation situation, I'm often asked, are these people we are resonating with, are we getting the information from, are they coming in the field? Are they coming in the workshop? Are they there? Do I have to get rid of them after the constellation has been done, or this? And this is not how it works. This is why I want to explain it to you, so you understand it and you can also explain it to others correctly. So we are not inviting spirits, we are not inviting souls to come and join us. This is completely different. This has nothing to do with what we do. We are actually very scientific. As you now know, all the work we do with family constellation is based in science, the real science, not the scientism, but that's another thing. And it can be all proven all over again that is what happened. That's actually science. So you make an experiment and you can prove all over again that you have the same result. And when it is so, then it is a rule, and that is the rule. And that is a scientific fact then all of a sudden. When we are connecting as a resonator or as a representative with a family member of somebody's family system, we are accessing the information. The field has the information and the information stays in the field. So we are accessing the field, reading the information, and then we are communicating it. That's all. The information stays where it is, and definitely the spirit stays where it is, because we don't know where the spirit is. The spirit is not there. It is somewhere. The soul is somewhere. It's not there. That's not what we do. We are accessing the information that has been left in the morphogenetic field because there was an imbalance. And the morphogenetic field is storing every information. I talked about that in Module 1, Part 1. Every information that is not love, that is not letting love flow, that is not nourishing the family system, that is destructing the family system because it's a trauma, and it is unresolved. Somebody's left behind who belongs. All of these incidences are stored in the morphogenetic field as an information. Like the cloud, like the computer cloud, like the iCloud or Dropbox or whatnot. When you have a file uploaded to the box, and this to the iCloud, then it's in the cloud. It's not on your computer. You don't even know it's there. But in the moment you want the information from the cloud, you want to work with the file, you are accessing the cloud, you are accessing the information that is there, and once you don't use it anymore, it's back in the cloud and not on your computer, as long as you don't download it, right? And that's exactly what we do. We are not downloading this information. We are working with it straight into the cloud. Yeah, we are reading straight into the cloud. And that is the beautiful work as we do it in the line of Bert Hellinger's work. So there is no need to worry about that anybody in a workshop setting is obsessed or possessed by a spirit from the family system. If you have the incident that a representative said, I can't get out of my role, I can't get out of my role, then this is only why, the only reason why is because this individual has strongly resonated with this information and has triggered his own trauma in his own family system. That's what happens. It is not coming from somebody else. So the appropriate way here to deal with that is, when it persists, is to do the next family constellation with this person. Yeah, because this is obviously something that needs to be looked at. So it is nothing else than his own, let's call it, issue that he wasn't aware of, is coming up through the resonating with the information of the morphic field of the other family system, right? Yeah.
What if this person doesn't want to do a family constellation about it?
Then that's not your problem.
Okay.
That's his choice. He can also leave.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Roem, yeah?
How would you start the family constellation for that person? Because you don't know what the issue is.
You don't need to know the issue. You can do perfectly fine a family constellation without talking to a client. You don't need to talk to your client.
So how would you start it? Put one representative for the client.
So here, one for the client and one for this trigger, whatever. There's always an emotion. Let's say they are angry, so they can't get out of this emotion, or they are sad, or whatever.
Okay.
And then that would be the start of the constellation.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, time and space. So the morphogenetic field is outside of time and space. This is like the cloud. There is no time, there is no space. I mean, in the cloud, there's actually space. There's a computer somewhere. So that's probably not the right comparison. But the morphogenetic field is definitely not working with time and space. And this is why we can access information from people long ago, have died long ago, 7 generations back, sometimes even more, as we have seen yesterday, that it can go further in rare occasions. And it's also not restricted to space. So if something happened in South Africa, you can still in New Zealand access, or in Europe or in America, you can still access this information. It's not bound to any space neither. That's the beauty about it. So it can be really applied everywhere. Now, the next question is, okay, now we understand how we get the information from the field, but why does it actually change? Why is healing taking place? How does that work? It works like because the morphogenetic field and the information in the field are outside of time and space, everything is now here. Yeah, that is the consequence. If there's no time and no space, then everything is now and here. So when in the family constellation, when we find that what means, which is all we look at in this module, when we find that what means through words and gestures and everything that we go through here, then this information is feed back to the field. So it's kind of a new information that has been overwritten the old information at the same instant. So this is why it is such a deep healing modality, because it definitely changes the past and the future. And this is the magic about this methodology. So we are feeding back the healing word. We are feeding back the missing person, the acknowledgement of the missing person that in the family constellation as the new information to the field. And this is then transformed into love, because we allow the love to flow, and then the information can go out of the field into love, into the family system, right? Because the field is not holding information of love, it only holds information of not love. So basically this information is then deleted from the morphogenetic field and doesn't need to be accessed again. This is also why I always say, when a family constellation has been done, that's it. It's over. The movement will still continue, but the family constellation is over. And when you have the same client again, you're not asking, where did we stop, and continue from there. You know what I mean? That's not what you do. Of course, as I said, there's always an exemption. I had just recently worked with a client, and that was actually an exemption, but that was after 15 years the first time. So I say you don't need to you forget about the exemptions. Just go with the rule in your work. And then now you also know, after all that, why death doesn't matter, because the information, the morphic field, is always here and now, and there is no such thing as death. Yeah. Good. Let's look into our words. Thank you. So thank you is, of course, gratitude. We use thank you as gratitude all the time in our daily lives. It is also giving. Sometimes you say you are giving thanks to somebody. So this kind of gratitude is an actual giving. You are giving something. This is why it's also such an interesting or strong word that can balance out imbalance in giving and receiving, right? Because it is actually an act of giving if you give thanks to. And now we look at how we apply it. So we apply this word thank you to acknowledge somebody. It's quite similar to yes, yeah, but you can still use it also as a thank you. It depends on the situation. We apply it for the end of a relationship. Somebody's leaving. So remember, please is bonding, and thank you is now leaving the bond, yeah, ending the bond. That, of course, a thank you to the parents is not cutting the bond to the parents, but it will cut the burdens that are coming with the bond, right? So that is different, because we always have our parents and our ancestors. We are always part of this family system, and there is no such thing as cutting the cords, but we can cut everything that is burdened. Every emotion we can cut, every trauma, every memory, all this can be cut off with a thank you. That is also sometimes called breaking the chains, which is also done by a thank you. You can close a relationship, a romantic relationship, with a thank you applied in the right moment. You can apply the thank you to your parents, as we said yesterday, after the please has been mastered, if you will. Yeah, this is a sign of growing up. So it's a natural way to do that. This is important before a partner has been chosen to have an old child with, to be fully in the power of an adult that can give the child what it needs. A thank you can also come from the child towards the parents in different sentences. One very obvious one is thank you for giving me life. So we have, when you remember with the yes sentence, it's acknowledging what is you gave me life. That's at the beginning of an interrupted movement. You gave me life. My life comes from you. Now, going through all these movements, coming to the end, which is the thank you, would be thank you for giving me life. Thank you for nourishing me. So it's not the please nourish me, it's now thank you. Thank you for always being there for me is another one. Thank you for caring for me. There are lots of sentences you can use here. Thank you for my life. This is a thank you that is often used in abusive relationships to the parent. So when the child has been abused or neglected, and obviously it is hard for this child to acknowledge, or they cannot possibly say thank you for always being there for me, because it was probably not the case. But what they always can say is thank you for my life. They can always say that, and the sheer fact that they are still alive makes it valuable. Yeah, so the parents have done nothing wrong, because this person is alive, and that's all the parents need to make sure. That's their duty. Thank you for my life, and I leave everything else with you in your own responsibility. That would be towards an abusive parent who are hitting the child, or neglecting the child, or starving the child, or sexually abusing the child. It is important that the movement towards this parent is completed, because this is interrupted through the abusement, but it is also important that the child doesn't take on any of these atrocities that has been committed, right? So this is the right sentence then to say. Surprisingly, there are situations when a thank you comes also in the word I will stay. This is when a child is, now grown up, has suicidal thoughts often, and then goes through a healing, hopefully with a family constellation, and then it can say to the parents who are worried about them, I will stay. That is like a thank you for supporting me. I will stay. Yeah. Let's talk about thank you in relationships. Charlotte?
What do you mean? Do you mean stay like on Earth?
I stay, yeah. Yeah.
Like I won't kill myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So now we have a different thank you that's not towards the parents, that is in romantic or in equal relationships, in this lake situation, we were always referring to. So this would be thank you for everything I have received from you. You may keep what you've received from me if you wish. That's choice. I take responsibility for my part in our separation and leave you with the responsibility for your part. I give you place my heart, that's optional. So why do we have such a long thank you? It is important that at the end of a relationship, everything is balanced. If something is not, and I refer back to module 1, part 3, when I say about balance. And when you are revisiting all the modules, then you know what I'm talking about, if you have forgotten. So when at the end of a romantic relationship, you want to balance everything out, because otherwise you are not free to, like, truly free to decide if you want a new relationship or not, and the new relationship, if you chose to, will be not fulfilling. That is a fact. So every relationship needs to come to an emotional and a spiritual or energetic end in balance. Yeah. Now there's always something, even if the last years were horrific in this relationship, as it often is, there's always something that was good, obviously, right? And that is okay to keep that. But that doesn't mean the bad things or the bad emotions or the hurting needs to be kept. Because the hurting comes from the other, yeah? And it's their responsibility. It's always the one who took action, who said something or who did something that is hurting. So this needs to be given back. Because otherwise, if you would keep it, you would still be in a relationship with him. Him, I say him because we are all, but it could be hers as well. Yeah. It is really important that this is taking place. And in a family constellation situation, we can do that by applying these words. Yeah. So it's always the same. I take everything that is nourishing me and that was good in my life and that was love, I keep. Yeah. And the rest, and you can keep whatever you have received from me in this regard. And the rest has to be exchanged again. Yeah. So you give back practically his emotion, and you take back your emotion from him. Yeah. And for this you need a little bit of a ritual, or you need to learn a little bit of these words, which are always the same, right? So you can also say, I give you everything back. Sometimes in a constellation, I also use a cushion, a pillow, an object, so they can exchange that. So this is just taken back. So everything, and you don't need to specify it. It would actually be worse if you specify it. You're not specifying what it is. Yeah, that's important. So you take just everything that is mine, I take back. And everything that is your, you take back. Or I give it to you. And then you could say, okay, this is an object that you exchange, which is representing everything, whatever it is. We don't need to know that, and we don't want to specify it, because then we might miss something, or we most likely will miss something out. So it needs to be everything. Yeah. I give you place in my heart is only it's voluntarily. It's only when it's really an urge in the partner to say that. So it's just suggested when the partner wants to say that. It is not another bound. I give you place in my heart is not bounding anybody, yeah, because you can have a place in your heart for all beings in the whole world. It's not a crowded place. How can I put it? It's not a little heart where only a few people have a place. You know, it's like the heart energy, and everybody has a space in there. So that's fine. It makes them not special to have a place in your heart, right? In fact, everybody should have a place in your heart. So, and then of course, if in the relationship there were mutual children, then that's very important to say thank you for our children. Yeah. Right. Anything, question to this before we go to the I follow you dynamic? All good? Charlotte, are you aware that your camera is off? Oh. Maybe she has.
I just hit a little signal patch. I'm just going to move rooms. Hold on.
No worries. Just want to make sure. Because when somebody on Zoom is black, then I'm always worried that they are not there. Okay, so I follow you dynamic. What is this? It is a violation of the third order of love balance. That's what it is. It is a deep love, as always, to the entangler. Often children are having this dynamic for their partners or grandparents. Yeah, so that happens. Pre-existing dynamic, I follow you, or rather me than you, in the parents or grandparent is common. So it's often a repetitive pattern. And remember when we said, so to recap how you see that. In the first dynamic, what was the gesture that gives it away? Do you remember that? Or what was the thing that give it away? If it's a reparation for my sin dynamic, any ideas? It's just 2 days ago.
That they're lying down if it's reparation for sins. No, sorry, it's the other way. They're not lying down, they're standing up if it's reparation for sins. And they'll be looking at each other with a bond. Is that right?
Yeah.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Mm.
Rosemary.
The atonement of sins is in a way the client doesn't want to go to the victim and feels shame and guilt.
Thank you. The feeling of shame and guilt is what gives this away. Atonement for my sins. And the feeling of, just use this. That's enough. Then the second dynamic, rather me than you, was more what Karen was talking about. Yeah, that is looking at the dead with the head down. Yeah, that's important. The rather me than you dynamic is looking at somebody who's lying down. Yeah. The I follow you dynamic is also looking at the dead, but this is a dead who's standing up. Yeah, somebody who's standing up. So they are not looking down. They are looking in a distance. Yeah. So I recap that you don't forget it. The first one, atonement for my sins, is the feeling of guilt and shame. The second one is looking down at somebody dead, rather me than you. The third one is I follow you, is looking straight ahead in the distance. Yeah? This is the easiest way to see a dynamic. If you learn that, then you are safe. When we see I follow you dynamics, that is often fatal accidents. I give you an example for that. In my early years as a lawyer, I was working in Munich with a partner who has acquired me after uni, and he was in his 40s, a lovely man with 4 children. And he died in a car accident a year after we opened up our law firm, leaving 4 boys behind, 2, 3, and 5 and 6 years old, and the widow, of course. Completely out of the blue, lovely man. I have heard then that the eldest son, when he was 18, died in his car. That's a typical I follow you dynamic, yeah? And this comes up. This is probably something that the client is not talking immediately about, but once the family constellation starts, there will be an information coming up. By I follow you, I have always see that the client is saying something that steers you in the direction of where actually this pattern comes from. Yeah. It is, of course, practically always a suicide. Right? I mean, we are always concerned with suicides by all dynamics, but the most common is the I follow you dynamic in suicide, especially if these souls have really no reason to commit a suicide. No. There's lots of attempts to commit suicide, of course, and there's lots of depression and thinking of not wanting to live. But to actually succeed with a suicide, it's a whole different thing. Now, there's a very different quality to that. And then I always look first for an I follow you dynamic, and then for the others. It can be a direct entanglement with the one who has gone, like a sibling, an abortion or an accident, or like I did the father who died in the accident. Yeah. But most commonly, it is an entanglement in our triangle situation that I have made the drawing yesterday. So you have an entangler, an entanglee, and the client. The client is entangled, and the entangler, and the third person is the one who did it before. Yeah, who did it before because they wanted to follow somebody, and I explained it wrongly, but I have prepared the board for you so I can show it to you. I say it again. The entanglement is here. The client is entangled with the person who is following somebody else. That's the third person. So the entangler is the one who is following somebody else, and the entanglee is the one who's following the entangler, right? I show you that. And it's not quite a triangle. It could be also quite linear. So I will show you that on the board rather than on our little artwork. So let me hang on before I take that away. Yeah. So what has to be said here is acknowledging what is. I'm going as well. That's what they want to do. Yeah. You have always to start with that what is right in front of your nose. I'm going as well, and then you have to go through the process. And when you find that what means, then you can say, or your client can say, I honor your destiny and leave it with you. That would be then the break of the bond with the entangler, yeah? Often, because the love is so strong, like you could see this example of the eldest son and the father, and of course the father's accident was also destiny, like that he followed somebody else, nobody knew, obviously, right? So that would be the entanglement, the son entangled with the father following, somebody else. So then it is also good, often because there is such a strong bond of love in between the entangler and the entanglee, that they can say, I live a little bit longer and then I go as well. Which means I stay here my full life, and then after my life is finished, we might meet again, basically. Yeah, that's what it basically means. And that is something that is often necessary to say because the client or the representative is otherwise not able to let go of the entanglement, right? So let me share my camera with you. Here it comes. So I have prepared it for you. Interestingly, that was a client of today. I had today in the morning a client with this constellation. And of course, the morphic field was sending me an I follow you dynamic. I was almost laughing about that, right? So I explain you the constellation and the issue. So here's a client, she's yellow. And it wasn't interesting, so I share the whole sitting with her. So here's a client, she's yellow, and she is an adoptee, so she has been adopted. And she came to this session with a story about her adoptive siblings. She has issues with them. Now you have to understand they are all adopted. So she is nowhere related to any one of them. Yeah? It's all adopted. So she was saying how they make her mad and how she feels like when she is in contact with them, she feels like she wants to hurt herself, and really, 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 really severe symptoms. Yeah. And then I was listening to this and I was thinking that I cannot have anything to do with them because they are not part of a family system. And by the way, they didn't do anything neither to become part of the family system through action. So, and then I thought, and she uses this word as well, trigger. And then I thought, no, they are only triggering something. They are triggering something. And you need to be really precise when you work with clients that you're not led astray and all of a sudden you do a family constellation with her adoptive siblings. Yeah? That's just going in circles, nothing. It doesn't come to an end, you know, will not heal. Nothing happens. So then I said, okay, we take you because we were completely in the dark. Yeah. I take you here. That's her. This is a representative for this darkness that comes over her. This wanting to hurt or kill herself or something like that. This really severe emotional reaction. That one. And then, it's not on the board yet here. Ah, yeah. And then this was a representative for the paternal family system. And then there was another figurine, I think that was her here, the maternal. Why that? Because we need to find out where this comes from. Yeah? So in this case where you have absolutely nothing to work with, because she's only talking about people who are not part of her family system, which was very unique, yeah? You have to find out where to start. And because you're not obviously not working with any of those she's mentioning, now you have to find out now who is responsible for this feeling that she has, what is triggered by her adoptive signal. So it became clear the mother was looking away or something, so it wasn't the mother, and this feeling was standing next to the paternal family system. So obviously we are working with the paternal family system. Now, as soon as I put the father here, right, that was the next step, the father, because, you know, this is obviously the way to go. You go from one step after the other, so paternal line, father first. Father, she wanted him here. She said something that she hasn't mentioned ever before. She said that the grandfather of her father committed suicide. She has not even thought about it for the last 20 years. This is how the morphic field works. This is not chit-chatting. This has nothing to do with one. This is a very, very important information from the morphic field directly. Why? This can only come when you started to work, because this is when you have connected to the field. Yeah? These are very important information. So then obviously, and then I said, is this the grandfather? And then she said yes. So we put the missing generations there, which is his father, and then this is his father, right? And then the way the figurines were put on the field, all of them were looking at her. Can you see that? But the great-grandfather was looking offline. Now you have 2 hints here, 3. And I wonder who can tell me which one, for what dynamic is here. What is the first hint? Reem.
You said that I follow you dynamic, they would be looking at the standing dead, so it would be looking at the distance.
Yeah, distance is one hint. Yep. What's the second?
Maybe because they are like, I follow you, like one after the other.
That's not what I'm getting at, because they're not looking at her.
Okay.
Anybody else? What's the second one?
Can I just ask, where are you saying that who's staring in the distance?
Let me just first get the answers before we forget it. What is the
that they're
second?
all, is it that they're all looking straight ahead?
No,
No.
that's not typical. We just talked about it just a minute ago, Rosemary.
Standing up.
We have to standing up and looking in the distance. What are the two others? Come on, Kerstin.
Atonement.
No, that's off topic.
No. Okay.
Is it that it's often children for their grandparents and parents and grandparents?
No, that's not precise enough.
There's a suicide, you said.
Yes,
or
thank you.
Yes.
Suicide.
Oh.
Thank you. Very good. And what is the third one?
Oh my goodness.
You know it.
Fatal accidents.
Huh?
Suicide and fatal accidents.
No, and this
She's
concept.
also having suicidal thoughts.
Yes,
She's trying to hurt
Swave, you got
herself.
3 points out of 3. You're my master student.
What did Dream say? What did Dream say?
She's also having suicidal thoughts. So someone's already had a suicide, and the client, also is having suicidal thoughts or like hurting herself thoughts. So this is why the pattern.
So you have the 3 hints that Reem has all sussed out that it can only be a I follow you dynamic. Yeah? Okay. Now when you look at it,
Yeah,
it's also very clear. So Charlotte, what was your question now?
Where are you getting that? Who is staring into the distance?
The red
So
one.
I've just got
The one with suicide.
what? So you've angled it slightly the other way.
Yeah.
It's quite hard when they don't have faces and eyes, isn't it? Because
No,
it looks
that's
like
brilliant
he's
because it's very precise. He's not looking at the yellow.
right. I couldn't see that from this direction, but okay, cool.
Can you see that?
Like
I wonder what-
fractional.
I can see that clearly. Anybody else problems to see that? No. Okay, good. Charlotte needs glasses. Okay, so this figurine then, now in this constellation, I put this figurine there. And she said it's behind her. Yeah? So now this figurine is behind her, and he's looking at her. Now this is in a constellation, you know that. This is a line of movement, right? This is the only energy that is here, is that he goes in that direction. Yeah? So when I move this in this direction, this is I follow you. So acknowledging what is, you say for him, I follow you. And in this moment, she wanted to turn around as well and look at them, right? Like this. And then you suggest to her to say, I follow you too. Yeah? And then, of course, you always ask, is it true? Right? You're not making things up. Although you know already what is going on here. It can always be different. Don't forget that. Every constellation can be different. But so you say, okay, is that true? Yes, it's true. So she goes over there and she said, I follow you too. And then you ask, yeah, how do you feel? And then she said, I feel very small. Obviously, yeah, very small. And then this is the healing moment. They said, do you suggest to say, I am too small for this? I'm just a little one. I'm too small. This is too much for me. Yeah. And that brings the relief. Yeah. And then when they are here together, then she says, I leave you here, you know. Please give me your blessings when I stay. And then they, of course, they do. They give their blessings when they stay, and then she can turn around, right, and go her own way, like that way somehow. We did a little bit more because we did, before this movement took place, we did an interrupted movement with all the fathers. Because this moving over there didn't take place at once. Just for the sake of demonstration, I do that, right? So first of all the interrupted movement needs to be healed before he could actually go where he was looking at. Yeah. And then the final question is, of course, what is with this now? Yeah. And then she said, I can go. Then you know, obviously, it is cleared, the entanglement. Yeah. So this is I follow you. Rosemary.
I might have missed it, but who is the figurine in the red dress, or do you not need to know what
Yeah,
they
exactly.
represent?
My question too.
That was the one that the great grandfather was following in the dead.
So you just say to the person, let's bring in someone else, and you don't need to know who it is. You just bring them in as the figurine and place them on the board.
That's, you never know the missing person who they are normally. That's what we do in family constellation. You add the missing person, the one that is not talked about. Nobody knows it. Rosemary.
So the grandfather would be the victim.
There's no victim perpetrator here.
So you would call them entanglee and entangler.
Yes.
Okay.
Coin
So
me.
the entanglee is the grandfather.
Yes. There are two entanglements. First, the great-grandfather with the forefather, whatever that was. Maybe his wife. Could be. Who knows? And then the second entanglement was the client with him. Coiny?
Hi, Maya. Oh, the grandfather, the one in the red cylinder. So when you place it behind the father, the figurine is looking away, not directly at the client. So because in order to qualify as the I follow you dynamic, that the client should be looking at a distance.
Very good
so
question.
When you say,
very good
it
question.
is looking away, not directly. So does that still qualify as the I follow you dynamic?
Very good question, Connie. Very good. Love it. So the I follow you dynamic is here between the great-grandfather and the other person. That's I follow you. The client is entangled with the great-grandfather. She's looking at him.
And he's looking away.
And he's looking away. So because she is entangled in his I follow you dynamic, she feels the same thoughts of suicide and killing herself and harming herself. So remember, the dynamic I follow you, rather me than you, or atonement for my sin, do not need to be from the client to another person. It can always be a repetitive pattern earlier in the family system.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why did you start healing the grandfather, father, grandson line before you did that?
That was necessary. That was That was necessary.
And how did you do?
That's just the interrupted movement healing. That's what we do in module 4. Remember? I think you had module 4 already. So that's what we do there. So that's just standard. In a session, you do whatever needs to be done. I just wanted to demonstrate the I follow you dynamic here, which was the biggest part of the constellation or the healing part. But yes, there was also an interrupted movement towards the father in 4 generations necessary to be done as well. Remember, she was an adoptive child. So she never saw her father. Yeah, Reem.
Just out of curiosity, have you ever had an ancestor not giving their blessings to the client?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
As long as they don't have a dynamic.
Yes, of course, of course.
If they're in the middle of the dynamic, no. But if they don't have a dynamic, then yes. So at the end, yes.
Of course.
Or
Yes,
sometimes
makes sense.
ancestors show up for support only. But yes, no. After the dynamic has been cleared, they should be all able to bless. Yeah.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you would work with the ancestors until he can give blessings. No. Yeah. Okay. Shall I leave it here? All clear? Okay. Awesome. So back to the sheets. So let's see if we talked about everything. So that's what she said at the end of the constellation is like, you know, it is your destiny or it's your dynamic, not mine. And she also said, I'll leave it a little bit, I live a little bit longer and then I go as well. That was important for her as well. Okay, so exercise, yay, exercise time. So today we are working with the word thank you, of course. And we do exactly the same. And this time I remember you have to ask, is it true? This is the important part of the exercise, yeah? So again, we have one, the client, the other is representing a parent or a partner, and the third is the observer helper. Now it's all about the helper observing and finding the right time, if it's possible, for the client to say thank you, and also to, if it's possible, to say thank you to the parent, then to also apply some of the sentences we've been through. Yeah? Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for I can actually go back and show you the ones so you know. What was this again? So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for nourishing me.
Yeah. Thank you for
being
caring
there
for me.
Yeah.
Being always there for me, or at least thank you for my life when it was an abusive relationship. Yeah. And I leave everything else with you. So these are all the thank yous we are thinking about. And then if it's a relationship, then you have this thank you exchange of emotions. Yeah. Don't forget that. The exchange emotions. That's the thank you in a relationship. You can take screenshots if you want a peek, if you want a little help in this exercise. And so back to the exercise. So that is the exercise. It's the same as yesterday, only that I really want you to focus on finding the right moment to suggest to the client to say thank you, to the parent or to the partner, and then suggesting the right sentences that goes with it. Yeah? So that is it. Don't forget, is it true? And then also, is it true? You also want to ask after each sentence, of course. You're not assuming that the sentence is right because we have choices, right? We have choices there. And because if you have like a parent relationship and you don't know if it was an abusive relationship or not, you don't know if they can say, thank you for always being there for me, or if they have to say, thank you for my life, everything else I leave with you. This is very different, right? So if you suggest to your client to say, thank you for always be there for me, then you have to ask, is this true? And it might be not true if it was an abusive relationship. Yeah. Clear? Rosemary?
So in the relationship, if we say thank you, then it's a finishing relationship.
Always.
So
in a
it's not
family
like,
constellation, not
Okay.
in a family constellation.
okay,
Not
thank you.
thank you for passing the butter at the breakfast table. I mean, it could be, the finishing of the relationship. But it doesn't have to. All right. Are we all clear? Any other question to the exercise? Good. All right. Let's do it. Let's go in the breakout room. And I, as always, send you after 3 minutes some swap messages. Charlotte, you haven't joined yet. Can you go to your group? No? I can't hear you. What happened? Do that, Charlotte. Because
That
there's
was
no
so
other room.
funny.
There was no choice. That's so
Was it
good.
the first day on Friday that me and Rosemary just kept getting lost in
That was
strange
so weird.
silence?
That was spooky. Honestly, I
We're not
couldn't
in
believe
module
it.
4 or 5, was it? The in-between world.
Yeah, that was really
We were in
spooky.
the in-between worlds.
Yeah,
We're in
yeah.
a strange morphogenetic field of our own.
Very, very true. So, okay, very good. What I've seen in this exercise so far was great. I really liked what I have seen, the way the helper was asking, is it true? One earlier than the other, but in the end, it is important to ask what is true after every word or after every sentence. Yeah. Okay, so tell me how it was for you from the perspective as a helper. Who wants to start? Connie?
Yeah, sure. When Kirsten, when Charlotte is representing Kirsten's father, I knew Kirsten is very happy. Her heart is full with joy. I can see that immediately from her face. It's so obvious. So she said thank you even before I asked her to do so.
Very good.
I know she's going to say whatever I ask her to say. I mean, it's a very harmonic energy. I really can feel it.
Wonderful that you felt it.
Yeah.
And in this case, also,
So,
Connie, it is quite not necessary to ask if it's true, if it's so obvious that it's true.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that did you suggest some more sentences and just thank you?
I say thank you for always being there for me.
Very good one.
Yeah, but I cannot pronounce it properly according to Charlotte when it comes to my turn.
Oh no, really?
She asked me to say this sentence to my mom.
Yeah.
Who is Christine? Well, I cannot pronounce it properly because obviously it's not true.
Well, there was a Freudian slip. So when she said it, she said, "Thank you for being dead to me." Like,
so hang on, we are swapping now. We are now switching. We are now switching. So now talk to you, Charlotte. So what was you as a helper? What happened there?
Yeah. So Quinny was the child and Kirsten was the parent, and it was clear. So we started with thank you, and that was a no-go. But I just wanted to test a few of them out, to be honest, and see what the reaction was a little bit. So we tried thank you for being there for me. And that was when it sort of came out, thank you for being dead for me. And it was just really interesting because the energy was stone cold dead as well. She's like, thanks for being dead for me. And it was just like a reflection of probably what she was feeling. And
that was probably true.
And then we moved on to thank you for giving me life. And that was still like, it wasn't open heart filled love, but it was truthful.
That's
So
important.
that was,
yeah.
We kind of worked back down the layers on that one as well. And it kind of ended up as thanks for giving me life. And that's what we could do.
And that's, and this is very important, because as long as a child or the client or the representative is able to say the thank you in whatever sentence, it's already moving,
Yeah. It wasn't like joy and like open-hearted, like woo, but it was like, this is truthful, authentic.
That's it. That's it. That's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for a truthful thank you with these sentences. So they need to be tailored to what the client is able to say at this state of emotion. And then the next time it will be already different. This is how we work. Sometimes it just takes a lot of steps, and sometimes it is almost a no-brainer. That's just this is why we have these tools of these different sentences. Very good. Very good. Who was the third one? Kerstin.
Yeah. Well, Charlotte was the child and Connie was the mother. And from the moment the roles were established, Charlotte's face dropped to the ground. It was really interesting. And so she was totally annoyed. I could pick that up. I gave her some time, and then I said, thank you, say thank you. I could feel it was very hard for her. And I can't remember what I asked you to say. Thank you.
Well, you asked her to say if it's true.
Yeah, and I did say that, and I asked her if it's true. She said, no, not really. So I tried another sentence that wasn't true either. So I could see it as thank you for giving me life is the truthful one. And that was what it is. It was interesting because I could feel it from the moment go.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So you see how you can actually, without any fault, see or feel it, and you think it's obvious, but it's not obvious. This is the information from the field that makes it obvious. If you know how to access it, if there would be a random observer, they wouldn't say it's obvious, That's the difference. Very good. Okay, Karen, how about you?
I didn't go as a helper.
Again.
Yeah, well, I don't think we saw the 3 changes. We only saw 2, so we changed each time, but we
were busy.
Yeah, no. You're just not watching the messages. The other group picked it up.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't see.
No.
So Reem and Rosemary both went as helpers.
I think you don't want to go as helper.
Something
is stopping you. Something is there blocking you.
Maybe.
Yeah, we have to look at that. Okay, Rosemary, you go.
We did a little bit of relationship workshop, and Reem was Karen's partner, and they looked at each other. But in a way, for me, it's I asked Reem, Karen's partner, to say thank you, because maybe this is completely wrong. Reem looked very, very happy as a partner. But saying thank you, you say it's a breakup of a relationship. So it was very, very hard for Reem to say. We went through all these words. Reem had a screenshot, and it made her very, very sad. And Karen, she could say it, but she didn't want to take responsibility.
So the relationship is not over. That's what you see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, not from her partner. He is very, very heavy heart. Yeah, his heart is very heavy.
What is about the thank you for our children?
Oh, we didn't even go there. Yeah, we forgot that.
You take all the time, double as others, and you don't come to the point.
Yeah, it was not on the screen, I think. When
Well, I said it. I can't hear you, Reem.
Yes, I had the words with me, but I was very overwhelmed with like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to say this. So I just didn't see the thank you for our children. Actually, I didn't see it. Like, I just didn't want to say, thank you.
So in this, that is the same with what was Kerstin just sharing. It is very important, and of course you do nothing wrong because this is only an exercise. So this is all good what you do. It's all what you learn. Every single thing that happens is for a reason, and it makes you, grow. So that's not a critique in any way, shape, or form. I just want you to learn from it. So when Kerstin said at the end, Charlotte, to say thank you for my life, that is exactly the only possible thank you in this case where Charlotte has this interrupted movement towards her mother. Yeah? Okay. In your case, with the relationship, when it was obvious the thank you is for the end of the relationship and nobody's really able to say that, not in the way that it's truthful, that's exactly where you have the words thank you for our children. That's exactly the same as thank you for my life. That is something that is undeniable. And because it's undeniable, this is the only thank you that's available. That is a healing one.
If they don't have children, would you say thank you for our relationship?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Or I like to say, what I like to say is thank you for the good times and the bad times. I learned a lot. Something like that. Something that is undeniable. That doesn't need to be heartfelt to say. Because it's practically a fact. It's a fact. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay, so that was, and then the other one was Reem? No, yes. Yeah. So you go.
Just need to say that we have voted and Karen decided not to be a helper. So it's not like we didn't give her the chance to be a helper. Let's start with that. Second one is, who was it? Oh my God, yes, Rosemary. So Rosemary asked Karen to be her partner. And I could see like, I was a bit taken aback because like I could see like Karen like was looking lovingly at Rosemary, so I didn't expect her to be able to say thank you. Like I thought like there was like, and then Karen was like, I asked her to say the whole sentence like thank you for everything and like take responsibility, give you yours, and I asked her is that true, and she said yes, and then at the end I asked her can you say and give you a place in my heart.
So sorry, who was your client, Rosemary or Karen? Rosemary.
Rosemary is my client. Karen is Rosemary's partner.
So Rosemary was saying thank you.
Karen was saying thank you.
But that's a partner. Okay, yeah, well, okay, yeah.
Was it the other way around? Who's supposed to be doing it?
Yeah.
And then when I asked Rosemary at the end, can you say thank you back? I said no.
Okay, interesting group, you. There's a lot going on in the background, I have to say. Lots of things to work with. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay, did you enjoy the exercises? Yeah? Good. Okay, let's go in the break. It is almost 22. So we have 10 minutes. I see you 10 to the hour, yeah?
Can I ask questions or?
Yeah, but before you do that, I want to clarify something. When we are looking at a relationship and the relationship has ended because the partners are separated, yeah? But the partners cannot say thank you to each other, yeah? Then it's obviously a lot of emotional bondage still going on, yeah? So this is a healing movement, is to work through that and to finally come to the thank you. And then in a constellation, in a real constellation, you would see they can all move, like both partners can move away from each other with a light heart. That's the result, the resolution. Yeah. In a parent-child relationship, when the child cannot say thank you to the mother or to the father, that is different, because here the please is not finished. So in a real family constellation situation, you would go back to the please. Yeah? So don't jump that. When a child cannot say thank you to a parent, then there is definitely still the please that needs to be said. Yeah? Okay? Understood? Okay, questions?
When you're trying to work out what's happening. So when you're trying to work out what's happening at the beginning, would you sometimes try with a thank you and see what the reaction is? And then if it's a no, then you're like...
Yeah. If you don't have a clue, yes. You would normally start with the please in a child-parent relationship anyhow. But if you have worked with a client for a while, and then you might think, okay, let's see the thank you, how the thank you, and then you know when the thank you is not coming easy, then you go back to the please. And as I said, the please has to be said a lot of times in some relationships with a parent. And even if you go through all this please, and then in one constellation, thank you, there is a thank you. And then like a few months later, next constellation, mother issue again, thank you cannot be said. That is when you ask, can you say thank you? No, they can't. You repeat the please, right? It's not like one time and done. It's not like that. It has to be repetitive, because every please is just a step, really. Even if the constellation looks like it's finished, but then it might not. That is just very typical for parent relationships. Yeah?
And is it that like you get a thank you for my life the first time, and then the next time you have to work through more pleases to get thank you for caring for me?
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Yeah, you got it. That's true. Yes, questions now.
So we said for the parent-child relationship, you start with the please, and then we go on to thank you, yes, and then thank you. I messed it up. But anyway, my question, and for the lake one, the partnership, you start with the yes, and then please, and then thank you.
Yeah.
My question is for the disadvantage to giver or victim perpetrator or those kind of relationship, what is the order of like the healing words? Like what do you say?
There's only yes. There's no order.
Yes, acknowledging what is like, yes, I did this, or like, yes, we belong together. Yes, I follow you. Okay. And the yes in the partnerships, it's a yes what?
The yes is at the beginning. Yes, I want to. Yes, I want. I'm interested in you.
Okay.
Yeah. So to clarify, perpetrator, victim, advantage giver, disadvantage giver relationships. These are relationships that have no hierarchy.
So there's no order for the words. Yeah.
There is no order for words. That is no hierarchy, and it's not a partnership.
Okay.
Right? So there's only the yes towards each other, the yes, you are like me, I'm like you, we belong together. That's all. However, sometimes there is an urge in the perpetrator to say, please forgive me. And we talked about that yesterday.
Yes.
So you can let that slip. That's fine. It's not changing anything, but it's not an order. It's just, because this needs to be said, fine, but then it's only the yes. Yes, I see you. Yes, I see your pain. Yes, I did that. Yes, I take responsibility. Yes, I see you are like me. We belong together. That's the only. There's no real order in the words.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Good.
What is the healing movement? Have we got there yet for the I follow you? Because first one for the atomic from essence, it was movement towards, and then
Healing movement is always towards.
okay.
It's always towards. Otherwise, it wouldn't heal.
Okay.
Yeah. But what heals is that to move the family member towards that family member who needs to receive or to give the love. Yeah.
What
That's
about with
always,
partnerships
yeah.
where it's over where it's over in a partnership and they don't really like each other? Is the healing movement still forwards, but then it's okay, it separates, so it's forward and then released?
When they
'Cause they don't
don't
stay
like each
together, do
other,
they?
what, like in a partnership who's not separated, and they don't like each other. I don't understand the case.
They are separated. When they're separated and they're not getting on, is the healing movement still towards, but then it doesn't have to stay forwards,
No, when they're
does it? Like
separated,
move
they are
quickly.
separated. The healing movement is not towards each other when they are separated.
Yeah, what is it?
The healing movement is the
Actually go
exchange.
apart.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
exchange of energies to give back what doesn't belong and to receive what belongs. That's the healing movement. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So let's go back. The next topic we are looking at is trauma.
And you should record. Yeah. You should record.
Let's see if I
you?
don't.
It is recording.
It is recording. Thank you. It's double checking is better than not. So that's good. That's always great. Okay. So let's look at trauma. So there's a very, very simple definition of trauma. It's an act of violence, yeah, that is either experienced in one's own life or it comes from an entangled person, the entangler, right? Through one of the three dynamics of family constellation. And this one has experienced an act of violence, okay? And the act of violence can be physical. We call that a trauma, physical trauma. Or it can be mentally, or it can be emotionally. Now, what you feel, the traumas we are working with are the emotional ones. Because in the family soul, in the morphogenetic field, is the information stored of the state of emotion the victim was in. Yeah? That is stored. Not if they broke a leg or somebody cut the throat. I mean, the information is also stored, by the way. Let's put it another way. That's not what we need to heal. We don't need to heal the physical ailment. We need to heal the emotional state. However, there is actually, in fact, the physical trauma also stored in the morphic field because, like we had in one of the practice workshops lately, that there was these victims, and one was representing the victim. I don't remember who that was. He said, "It feels like I can't breathe anymore, and it's like some gas coming." And that was then the hint that we are in the concentration camp in the Second World War. So that was a physical impact, or somebody they are reporting they feel stabbed or something. So this information is also stored, but that is normally not what causes a trauma in a family system that one gets entangled with. It is the emotion of fear, most often, of course, right? The emotion of fear, agony, desperation, terror, all these emotions that are stored in the family. In the morphogenetic field of the family system. The trauma is always a fear of dying. Yeah, always. So the traumas we are working with is nothing else than the fear of dying that is either de facto happened because they died, or it is perceived, and then we call it a disadvantage giver, yeah, because they don't die, but they thought they're gonna die. For example, this example, when the Nazis took the property away from a Jewish family, and they were just sent off with nothing off their grounds, right? Of course, the traumatic experience here is my family is going to die. I have nothing to feed them from. Yeah, I have no land, no money, no nothing. That's always a fear of dying, which then didn't happen because I didn't die, but the trauma is stored as the fear of dying. So we are not concerned with any other trauma. When we hear stories from our client telling us stories, and it has nothing to do with a severe impact in one's life, it is not what we are looking for. This fear of dying leaves a deep wound in the soul, in the individual soul. And then also, when it's not looked at, or when it's hidden, subconsciously tucked away somewhere in the subconsciousness, then after this person dies, it becomes a burden for the family system because it leaves a deep wound in the family soul then. These traumas are passed down through epigenetic inheritance, and that's another scientific fact. So as I said before, you will see that we are working with science here, with true science, and the meaning of observation of a rule, and it is applied all over again. Bert Hellinger knew that, but then I think it was 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years by now, then they have conducted experiments, and they found out that emotional traumas are changing the epigenetics. And this change is passed on to the future generations. It's exactly what we see in family constellation since 40 years. And then the science came up with this explanation. And now, since then, we call it epigenetic inheritance. This is a trauma that needs to be healed in order that the family system can go ahead, healed, yeah? So the love can flow. The most common trauma we are working with is the interrupted movement towards the mother, but there are many others as well. It carries the emotion of shame and guilt, perceived as fear and anger. So this trauma most often carries the emotion of shame and guilt, but it is perceived as either fear or anger. Anger is always the other side of fear. So if somebody cannot admit to be afraid of something, they get angry. Yeah? But the source is the same. It's an emotional trauma. And why is there fear, shame and guilt? An act of violence. Remember, trauma is an act of violence. There is always somebody who is doing it, who feels guilt, and the other one who is receiving or is subjected to this act of violence. They are feeling ashamed because of this has happened to them. And because this is such a low vibrating energy, the emotion of shame and guilt, we see that in module 4 when we are looking at the frequency of emotion chart. It cannot be in a day-to-day life. This emotion of shame and guilt cannot be allowed. Nobody can live with that. So it is perceived and camouflaged as either fear or anger. Yeah, anger for the perpetrator and fear for the victim. Yeah, so anger is camouflaging guilt, and fear is camouflaging shame. Yeah. In a family constellation, however, the true feeling will come out. Yeah. So often it starts with anger or fear, but then the representative is normally able to say after a while that they actually feel either ashamed or guilty. Yeah. So let's look at epigenetic inheritance. Epigenetics is translated as on top of the genes. So when before there was this decades of wasting money in finding out how to manipulate genes in order to heal something, and then they found out it's not in the genes, it's actually on top of the genes. It's also a mechanism that is in lay terms called the turning on and off mechanism of genes. So I give you a brief example. Just look at a newborn baby and look at the size of the nose of a newborn baby. It's itsy-titsy-bitsy tiny, yeah? Now there is a gene in everybody that is called nose grow, yeah? So this gene is turned on, right? At the moment the baby is practically developing. Now imagine this gene would not be turned off. How would we look today? Right? Just think of the nose you would have. It's impossible. We need to stop growing. So this gene that says is this information, genes are only information. They say nose grow needs to be turned off when we are teenagers or adults. Yeah? And that's what is called epigenetic. Epigenetic is a mechanism that is deciding if a gene is used or not. And that is far superior to the gene itself. Yeah? Because you can have a malfunctioning gene if it's never been turned on. That doesn't matter. So this whole science of genealogy, like in regards of that healing, is for practically nothing. Now we have epigenetics, and now we know an epigenetic mistake comes from an emotional trauma. Isn't that fantastic? That is now actually admitted in the science. So this trauma is causing an epigenetic failure. And let's forget about the nose. Let's do another example. Let's say in the First World War, there is a young man and he needs to shoot or stab with his thingy on top of the rifle. He needs to stab some other humans who are dying. And for them, for this soldier, this is very traumatic, of course. Doesn't matter if it's morally allowed or if that doesn't matter, right? He has taken lives. So this will cause in him, because it will be completely not talked about, he will not admit it, he will just go home and, try to do whatever he can do. So this is becoming a traumatic and emotional trauma, the feeling of guilt because he is a perpetrator, will become an emotional trauma that is changing his epigenetics. There will be a damage. And that might be that, I don't know, I just make something up, that might be that he's developing an allergy, hay fever. Yeah? That might be every time triggered he hears somebody shooting or fireworks going off or something like that, whatever. Now this young man is growing up and marries and becomes a son. Yeah, gets a son. Now this son is just old enough to go to the Second World War. And there, because he was let's say this all in Germany, so he was sent as cannon fodder in 1945 to Russia, to Siberia. Yeah. And there he, let's say, becomes a victim. Yeah. So he's not dying, but he perceives to die because he has been, I don't know, captivated, and he thought he's going to die. Yeah? Now this is causing another trauma. Now this young man has already inherited the epigenetic damage from his father from the First World War. But he has not inherited the hay fever. That's not how it works. the epigenetic damage in his body can and most often is different. So he would probably have slightly depression, depression. Now his own epigenetic damage that he has suffered as a victim, that would be also stored in his epigenetics. And when he has a son, he would inherit both. He would that from his grandfather and from his father, right? And he would probably is born with a immune disease, right? So he's suffering from some autoimmune disease, something like that. Now, in order to heal, not only physically but also emotionally, we need to go in family constellation to both generations and find both these traumas. And because we only work on one at a time, we are, it's a process. So we would recommend to come more often to a family constellation so all of these traumas can have the chance to come up and be healed. Let's see if I forgot to talk about something. That was the example. No, everything like this. Any questions to this, what I talked about? All good. All right. Now, let's talk about finding what mends. Very quick, Rosemary.
To mend these two traumas, you wouldn't need to go first to the great-grandfather and then to the next generation.
No, there's no order. There's no order. Yep. What comes up in a family constellation is what you work with.
Thank you.
The only order that you really need to observe in healing is an interrupted movement, that you go from the latest, the oldest generation to the youngest. But other than that, it comes up as it wants to come up. Yeah. Okay. So we are using now. What do we actually use to find that what mends? We are using words. We have talked this week a lot about words, but that's not all. We can also use gestures, eye movement, or the side of view, or where they're looking at. We can use movements, of course. Let's look into words first. So we have the powerful words, yes, please, and thank you. They are always available and use them often, right? Then we have words that strengthen these words or sentences. Now, go, stay, look at, only. These are positive, strong words. For example, if the perpetrator looks for the first time at the victim, it is a difference if you suggest them to say, I see you, or now I see you. And you can feel the difference. Has a different energy. Yeah? So this is all what you get from experience, that sometimes you can strengthen a word or a sentence with another word. Yeah? Okay. There are also words to weaken, and we don't want to use them. Yeah? So I just put them out here so you know what not to use. We never use a but, a no, a not now, a maybe, a sometimes, or a later. These are negatives. They are weakening the energy. So everything that has been achieved in the family constellation will be impacted and be lesser with these words. Yeah? Then we have another tool that we use in family constellation to reverse or rephrase. And the most common one is when one representative says to the other, you are angry, because he sees them, with a fist, making a fist or something. Then you suggest to them to say, you make me feel angry, and then finally, I am angry. Because that is where the strength is. The strength is not to look at somebody else and find out what they are. The strength is to acknowledge what is for my own energy. Yeah? So that would be, I am angry. And like I normally use the word rephrase to do that. And then we have talked about that. We have the little sister of the words, even though it is not weakening. So we have strengthening, weakening, rephrasing, and the little sister. The little sister is not weakening. It is just making sure that something is achieved. Yeah? Because if the strong words cannot be used because it's not resonating with the representative, as you have realized in this exercise we did before, then you use a little sister. That would be even though, not yet, give me a little time. Yeah? Okay? Then I want to talk to you about can'ts versus won'ts. So that's practically also a case of rephrasing. If a representative said, I can't go there, or more often, I can't look at them, yeah, then you would suggest to say, I won't look at you or them. This is stronger and takes over responsibility for the actions and is acknowledging what is. Yeah? So that's a very, very powerful rephrasing. Can't become won't. Then sometimes words are not exactly expressed, but something else comes out of the mouth, and that is a scream or a cough, or not in real vomit, but the feeling of wanting to vomit, or even laughter. So all these, can we say attitudes, all these, whatever that is, happenings,
like expressions.
Expression, thank you, Charlotte. All these expressions are substitute for words. So in truth, the representative has to say something, is absolutely incapable of doing it. Yeah? And this gives you already a hint. What needs to be healed? It needs to be said. It needs to be spoken out. So in order to come to that stage where they can find that what needs to be said, you let them scream, cough, vomit, or laugh. But you know it is not about that. And laughter, by the way, in a family constellation is a very aggressive thing to do. It is not funny. And just because the other participants of your workshop finding it funny, some is laughing, and everybody else is butting in and laughing as well. The only thing you can say is this is very serious, because it is. It is very serious. So laughing in a family constellation is never happiness, because you wouldn't have a family constellation if that would be true happiness. It is a form of aggression. It is the most severe form of aggression. Most often it's camouflaging perpetrator energies. Yeah? And that is the guilt. That is the emotion guilt is behind this laughter. However, vomiting could be both victim or perpetrator. Yeah? Same with coughing or screaming. So you need to, you see it in the context. What is it?
Have you ever had anyone vomit?
Not physically vomiting, but this dry vomiting, yes.
Retching.
Yeah, like yeah. And they would also say, "Oh, I want to vomit," but no, that nobody has. But I always say, "You go. I can clean that up," so you're not holding them back. Yeah. So the important hint here is let them amplify this. What did you say, Charlotte? This action, this expression. Let them amplify this expression. Let it come. Support them. Say, you go. Look, cough it out. scream out loud, vomit it out, or if they are laughing, you would just observe them laughing, but you would not laugh, of course, right? I mean, that would be a very big mistake as a facilitator to start laughing as well, because that would just mean that they have just drawn you into the deception.
So by letting them fully express it, you're basically making it very obvious what's happening and drawing attention, and they're drawing attention to it, and then you can start uncovering it.
Exactly, and they will actually, once they have let that out, they will actually then come to the state where they either cry or where they say the word that needs to be said, like please or thank you or yes or whatever. The energy must come out, and then what comes after is normally already there. It's already there. Or when this is, or you can just, if it's too long, you just stop it and say, okay, instead of laughing, say please. Or yes, I did that. Or whatever is appropriate, whatever is, So the strength of no words are very, very powerful. Yeah. So no words are very, very powerful to keep, to hold the space and be able to support the silence of no words is fantastic. We normally have the problem that there are too many words in a workshop, too much chattering. We never have a problem with no words. That's really not. It's just this kind of no words is not that somebody's saying, I don't know what to say. These are words, right? That's words. But no words are literally nothing is being said. And there are entire constellations I have witnessed with Bert Hellinger where no word has been exchanged in the whole family constellation. So that is possible. And it's very powerful. It's so not a beginner's work, I have to say. And then we have negative words. Of course, we avoid that. But sometimes there are some, and we came across them already in the training and in workshops. Sometimes you need to know them to make a sentence work. That is important, right? At the moment, I can't think of one, but I know we had one the other day. I forgot what it was. Anybody remembers? It's not important. Yeah, Rosemary?
Was it don't?
Yeah, in which sentence?
Don't say or don't do that, or
no.
You said don't do don'ts.
No don'ts. It was a didn't. Yes, now I remember. When, for example, we use often, I didn't know it hurt so much. Yeah, that's powerful. Although it has a didn't, like a negative word in it. So these are some sentences that make sense in a negative way, because it's really, I can't even think of how to express this positively. Right, but you can feel this energy is not negative. It's actually like the energy. It's high. This is a high energetic sentence. It's not a low one. Yeah. So emphasizing and rephrasing. We talked about rephrasing and how important that is to use this to come to the point, which is true. Emphasizing is that you suggest when somebody says, let's take the example sad. Somebody said, I feel sad. I think I feel sad, or something like that. And they are not really in the sadness. So they don't feel it in their heart. Let's say it that way. That you suggest to emphasize it. They said, I'm really, so you said, okay, say I'm sad, I'm sad. Yeah, I can say that, that's true, but I can't feel it. And then you said, okay, then say I'm very sad, I'm so sad, I'm so sad. That's emphasizing. Until they start to feel it in their heart. All right, now we talk about gestures. First of all, the hands Hands are an extension of the heart. I don't know whether you know that. When the baby is made in the womb, the chest around the heart is developing first out of the two arteries, artery and vein, and then that is covered in a sheet, in a chest, in a skin kind of thing, and there's a little bit of liquid to protect the heart, and this skin is literally forming the arms and the hands of the human. So the hands are literally an extension of the heart. So hands are super important, and we feel that as well. We are saying we are carrying our heart on our hands, for example, or we like to touch, or in many cultures you shake hands to make a heart connection, for example. So hands are very. So in family constellation, hands are also giving a lot away. So of course, I'm not talking about a virtual situation. I'm talking about what you will mainly work with, like the in-person workshops. Then the first thing I always look at is the hands in a representative. Always the hand. And that is already giving a lot of weight. So if there's tension, if there's a fist or a shaking or something like that, that gives you a hint of the emotional state of the representative. So who's he representing? Then when the hands can be open or the hands can be down, or all of this is giving little hints, right? So for example, if the hands are opening up, of course, this gives you a hint, because you cannot open your hand without open your heart. So this is kind of, let's do it all together, do this movement, open your hands, and then you feel how your chest is opening as well, right? So this is obviously a state where it's beautiful to give. Many, or the most common representatives that are having this gesture are the mothers. The mothers who have no interrupted movement. So the mothers who are ready to give to their children. They often do naturally that, opening their heart. So then you see when a representative is doing that, 90% you can see, oh, that's a mother with the child who might have an interrupted movement towards her. Yeah? Hands down, if you do that now, you put your hands down, it is kind of closing up the chest here, right? And so this is also closing up of the heart a little bit. So with the hands down, somebody is restricting itself in its emotional expression. And then, of course, the fist is aggression, anger, which is often disguising guilt. Yeah. And often it's also not their own anger, it's somebody else's anger because they are entangled. So that's the next thing. Then the second thing you look at is the head, right? So how's the head? Is it held up or down or tilted, right? So head up has two meanings. So first meaning is pretty much nose up, it's arrogancy. So you see that in a child with a severe interrupted movement towards the mother or the father. Yeah? They look literally like an arrogant child. You cannot tell me what to do, right? That's like heads up, nose up, right? There is another heads up which looks quite similar, has a completely different meaning. That is the devotion. So there is, especially in a family constellation where religion plays a role, there can be devotion. And that's a devotional gesture looking for God. Yeah, so that's different. That's both heads up. Head down is, we know that already, head down is looking at a dead. Yeah. And normally the emotion is sadness, grief, looking for someone, missing someone. These are the feeling depressed. These are the emotions or expressions with it. Then the head can be tilted. Do you know what that means? Yes, who knows it? Can you feel it when you do it?
Like thinking or unsure?
Unsure. That's the one, Charlotte. So that's insecurity. Yeah. So that's just a hint, whatever, whenever it comes up. Now, circling the head, this is another thing. This is most often pointing at a mental disease, can be psychotic or schizophrenia. Yeah. So just this head movement, if this is persisting, not just one to loosen the neck, but if kind of the head starts to rotate like this for a representative, then chances are 95% that this represented family member is suffering schizophrenia, right? Or psychotic episodes. Then we look at the feet, and there's the feet are normally just not very telling, but if there is a movement in the feet, it could be either stamping or tremors. Yeah. So stamping obviously is another hint for anger, disguising guilt. Yeah. And tremors is the opposite. It's fear, disguising shame. Yeah. Then we have the face. Is that a question, Rosemary?
Yeah, what's tremors? In a way.
Sit down.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now look at the face. Of course, that's the next. We look at the face. You can have, well, you can have neutral expression. That's one thing. But then you can have a smile, which can be either this open together with an open hand would be like love towards a person, which is most commonly. It could be an ancestor or a partner or a mother or a father. That's normally, or a child towards the you see that. Then you have a frown. That means some resentments, which we don't know just by the expression what it is, but the other gestures or words or movements will give it away. We have sweat in the face. Yeah, that is normally a sign of anxieties, of fear. Then I want to talk about amplifying small gestures. This is very important to bring the related emotion. So if one, let's make an example, if one is stamping with the foot just a little bit, and you are probably the only one who has observed it, you say to this representative, stamp your feet really, really hard. Yeah? So make them really stamp, and then the emotion will come up. That is related with this stamping the feet. Or when somebody is making a fist, then you would say, shake your fist, shake your fist, shake your fist, right? And that is all amplifying the gesture. So then it becomes the emotion that this gesture is kind of disguising or stands for. Now, the overall body language, there's basically, there's a couple of things to say. So if the body leans forward, it's positive. If the body leans backwards, it's negative. It's rejection, right? If the body leans sideways to the right, there's the father, something missing on the father side. If the body leans to the left, or it feels like the left is colder or something is missing there, then that is the maternal side that needs to be worked with, or that's missing there. Then you have another body language is crumbling, and they want to go down, so they are actually representing somebody who is dying or who is dead, and then you would amplify it and you would allow them go with your movement. Do you want to lie down? And then they most often want to lie down, and then you take it from there. Some want to kneel, or some want to sit on the floor. So this kneeling or sitting on the floor is most often a sign that they are representing a child. Yeah. Then we look at eye movement. So, first of all, let's talk about eyes closed. We talked about that before. I'm just repeating it. You want to allow your representative to close their eyes to connect with the field and to really feel to understand if they feel something. What are they picking up from the morphic field? Yeah. But then when you want to work with the representative, they should open their eyes, because now you want to know to whom they are relating. Yeah? If they cannot open their eyes, you would suggest them to lie down, because normally a representative who cannot open the eyes is dead. Yeah? And one who is standing with closed eyes doesn't know they are dead. So they need to lay down. The opposite is, if somebody's lying down with the eyes open, they are also dead, but they might not know that they are dead, and they have unfinished business, most often with their perpetrator. Yeah. But if somebody is lying down with the eyes closed, they don't need to open the eyes again, because you know they are dead and at peace. So they can do that. Everybody else needs at one stage open the eyes again. So you can work with them. So they can look at somebody, they can move towards somebody, you know. If somebody's persisting saying, I can't open my eyes, I can't open my eyes, but they also don't want to lay down, then you need to look at other gestures, what's going on there. No? Maybe they are swaying, and maybe there's a mental disease going on. Eye contact can be towards somebody, away from someone, up and down, or into the distance. So eye contact towards somebody is where we work with. This is our line of inquiry. In a family constellation, we always wanted to find the one who's looking at somebody else, because there is the strongest energy. Yeah? There is a relationship going on. So that's good and important. If somebody is looking towards somebody else, you can always suggest to take a step towards the one they are looking at. But you have to suggest one step after the other. Not rushing, not skipping steps, not jumping. It needs to be very slow. Every movement in the morphic field is slow. If it is fast, it's coming from the mind. It's not from the field. There is no movement from the field that is fast. Yeah? So if somebody wants to rush, you have to hold them and say, stop, stop, slowly. Take one step after the other. Away from somebody is also a strong energetic bound, a strong rejection. So you can work with that as well. Just remember, you can only let representatives say something to somebody whom they are looking at. They cannot talk to a wall. Yeah? That doesn't mean that the one they are addressing looks at them. That's not necessary, but they need to look at them. Otherwise, there's no relationship. Then you have eye contact up or down. So when the eye is going down, we know that already. That is similar to when the head goes down. They can look down even without the head going down. That's also looking at the dead. Or they are looking up. This is normally when the head is not turning up, and they're only looking up there in their minds. So you would ask this representative to close the eyes again and connect with the field and open the eyes and look ahead of them to a spot on the wall, not to a person. And then decide where they want to look at. Yeah? And then we have this looking into the distance. I have shown you that today on the figurine board. That is just a person who is not looking at any other person, whose eyes are closed. They are not looking up or down, but they are looking somewhere else where nobody is. And that's also a strong energetic hint, or a hint for a strong energy which you should follow up with, because obviously there is somebody missing where they are looking at. So we talked about cannot open eyes. Let's talk about tears. So tears are really, really good. You do want a lot of tears are the best way to release emotions. So you always have in your meetings, in your workshops, in your work, have always tissues there, and make sure you hand some tissues to the representatives so they feel free to release it fully. So tears are always, always good. You always support that. Give them time. Let them cry as long as they want to. Yeah. So movements. We have movements towards a person. Remember, they need to be slow, and you might have to direct a representative, especially one who does it for the first time. But if they still want to move towards a person, that's great. You allow that to happen. Moving away from a person, there are two possibilities. They could move backwards away from the person or turn around and move away from the person. When they move backwards from a person, there's also very strong bound. It's just a bound of rejection. Yeah? Very strong. So you work with that. If they turn around and move away from a person, there is no bound, no bond. So that is not where you work with. Yeah? You understand the difference? Yeah? Okay.
Can you repeat that one?
Moving away backwards, strong bond. Turning around and moving away into the opposite direction, no bond. What happens if somebody moves out of the door? And it has happened. What do you think? What do you do with that? Well, you just let them. There are two possibilities. First, one possibility is, which is rare, that somebody needs to go to the toilet or just think he has nothing to do with the constellation. But they most often don't move out of the door. They ask if they can sit down because they feel they can't help. They have nothing to do with the constellation, which is in itself another topic. But to move out of the door normally means to move out of the a rejection of the whole family, if you will, of the whole family system. An urge, maybe to die even. That's often moving out of the door, to close it behind, to leave the whole family system behind. So obviously that's a strong energy that you can work with. Yeah. Now, of course, you cannot work with them when they are out of the door, so you have to get them back in, right? And then turn them around and see what makes them not wanting to connect with the family system. Yeah. So I just said back to the seat. Okay, well, just if they want to, they sit back to the seat. If you feel that this is a let's say, how can I put it? That this is part of the constellation that they sit down on the seat because they want to retract from something, then you get them back into the group, into the circle. But most often they really have the strong urge and feeling that they are not taking part in this because of some reason they are not needed, and that's often correct. But however, as long as they are sitting there, not gone, you can always integrate them again when you feel it's necessary. Moving in circles, and that means the person is moving literally either around the whole group or around a person. This is also a sign of schizophrenia or severe mental impairment. Yeah. When they are sitting down, not on the chair, but in the constellation, then it could be either that they are representing a child, or it could be that they feel helpless or hopeless, or they feel insignificant. So it can be also very strong energy to work with. Lying down, we talked about that already. That is normally they are dead. Kneeling, normally a child. It could be also religious. So, you know, you have to see the context. Fast movements are not from the field. This reminds me of the thing we were talked about in our group chat about another self with this hitting somebody, yeah? Okay, so that is a fast movement when she hit him, right? Now in this episode, of course, that was her ex-partner, and she was actually expressing her own emotions, yeah? But the emotions of the one she was representing were also the same, but they were mixed with her own. So that made her move fast. The field would not move fast. They would like do one push, and that's it. Not repeated pushing, yeah? So it is preferable that there's only one movement. If it's a fast movement, you have to stop them from repeating it, yeah? So they can reconnect back with the field and with the pace of the field, which is always slow. And then we have no movement. That is always a nightmare of the beginner's facilitator. When there is no movement, no eye contact, no, absolutely nothing, no gestures, no hands, no feet, zero, absolutely zero that you can work with. What is that? No, Rim knows. Maybe somebody else knows this. Just give them a chance. You can guess if you wanted to. Okay, Rim, you go.
They know it because some of them were in the workshop. Family secret.
Yes. So that is the sign of a family secret. And the healing movement
So
here.
No one's looking at each other. Everyone's heads away. No one's making any movement. So none of the above. Everyone's just dead. It's just flat energy.
No, they don't need to lie down. They are standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are standing around. But there is none of the gestures I was going through that can give you any hint of any dynamic. Right?
So it's just like barren wasteland of
kind of. Yeah, it looks like here in New Zealand we have this dreadful pine plantations, you know, where they take all the natives out and put this fast-growing pines, and this is how it looks like there are these pines standing everywhere.
Zombies, zombie pines.
And that's it, and they're not looking at each other. Yeah. All right, so we have 10 more minutes, and I want to round up our module 2. So I would like to ask you, what was the topic of module 2? And you all got to get to answer that. So I start with Kerstin. Whatever comes to your mind.
The power of words. Yes,
okay.
Please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosemary. Mute.
Atonement of sins, rather me than you, and I follow you.
What is that?
Part of the module 2.
Yeah, but how do you call these? Starts with a D.
Dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Good. Raim?
There's trauma too. We spoke about trauma. We spoke about movements, gestures, strong words, and the little sisters.
Mm-hmm. Good. And Corny?
We learned about fear is always to camouflage shame.
Mm-hmm.
Anger is always to camouflage guilt.
Very good. Okay. And Charlotte?
Everything everyone else has said, but
yeah,
I suppose also the order of those words depending on different relationships.
Very
so whether
good.
it's the mother to the child or the partner to the partner.
Yeah.
So that
Great.
order will change the order of the words.
Yeah. Very good. And Karen, what comes to your mind?
I think mine is the gestures, the movement. It's not just, it's the way we can amplify them, but also understanding the movement, the pattern on the whole field, and understanding that interplay, and then looking to draw it out to find the emotion and to find where the healing movement needs to be or where the focus is.
Very good. And what was all this about? Why do we learn all of this? Yeah, Rim?
Finding what mends.
Exactly. So we had in the first module, we were looking at the orders of love. So let's recap the first one. What is the first order of love? Anyone? Rosemary?
Who belongs?
Yep, belonging. Second order of love.
Something.
Precedence.
Destiny.
Connie, you go.
The order of love. The order of birth.
The second order of love is?
The order of birth.
The order
Destiny.
No,
the order
what is
of birth, she's saying. She's saying the order of birth.
Of birth. Oh, sorry. Yes, we call it precedence.
Who came first?
Yeah.
The order of precedence, or who came first. Yep. And what is the third order of love? Rosemary?
Balance.
Yes. Very good. Okay. So, I actually talked about what you have learned, so we might not need to go through that again. Now I would like you to discuss with me from module 2 what interests you the most. Could be detail, maybe just one detail, something that comes spontaneously up. Kerstin.
I'm sorry, I haven't got anything in my head. Give me a little bit of time, please.
No problem. Rosemary.
I really liked how you explained the entanglement, and also in a way how you distinguish between atonement of sins and rather me than you and I follow you. You really explained it really, really well.
Wonderful.
Even I understood it.
Oh, no. Very good. Well, we will put it to the test in the next practice workshop. Yes, Kerstin.
Okay, I've the laughing of a representative is standing out for me now.
Very good. Very good. And Reem, what is in your head? Stuck.
I definitely loved the charts. That definitely, because we didn't have it in our workshop, and definitely made it stick this time with us.
Okay.
With me at least. Sorry. No, sorry. And I also like the gestures, the hand, like whether it's the eye, the moving backwards. It's really interesting how to see like every little detail has a meaning.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Connie, what is in your head?
For me, it would be the deep love to the entangler.
Yeah.
Maya, I'm not sure is that the issue that I have in our one-to-one. I mean, just for everyone's information, I did 2-1 and 1-to-1 section with Maya. On the second section, is this the issue that I have? I mean, just.
You asking me? Or you want to talk about it to the group?
I've no issue with that. If you
So
think
what is now in your head? What has related from the module 2 and your session? What is the missing? What is the link there?
Because on the second section, apparently there is an entanglement between me and fifth generation mother.
Yeah.
I think actually I don't know how you board that there is a lost child.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to ask me because I forget constellations, so I don't memorize it.
Yeah. So
and what does it remind you of module 2?
Which is the deep love to the entangler.
Ah, here we go. Yeah.
Isn't it? Is that my problem? I thought the moment you come to this little topic, so that immediately brings me back to the section that we have.
Ah. So remember, we go back to the entanglement to make that clear. The love of the entanglee to the entangler is great. Yeah? But it serves only a purpose. It's not like the love from the mother to a child. It has nothing to do with it. It's a love with a purpose. Yeah? So, only to make aware that this love that the entanglee has to the entangler or to the victim, could be either or, is a replacement for the missing love between the perpetrator and the victim. Yeah? So now the healing movement is to shift the energy and the direction of the flow of love where it belongs, between the perpetrator and the victim, the entangler and the third person, and then the entanglee is released from this bond. Yeah? And also from this love, which is not nourishing. Okay? So,
too
I
much
don't know.
For me. I need to digest it a bit. I'll watch this.
Watch this again. Yeah. So, and if this has resonated with you and in regards with your session, with your issue we were looking up, that's great. You don't need to overthink things like this, Connie. You just let it happen. What's this? A field is giving you this gift, and you just take it as it is, and you see what happens. Things will change. Very good. Okay, Charlotte.
What's the question again? Sorry, I got a bit lost after the last one. What's interested me the most?
Yeah, what interested you the most in this module?
I really think categorizing the stages of the relationship into yes, please, and thank you. That actually really helps to hone in on like what is the exact sentiment or energy that needs to be expressed and witnessed and acknowledged. I found that the most interesting, because if you can categorize that, then you can move it forward. So I found that the most interesting. I also really enjoyed categorizing the dynamics, as Rosemary said as well. You know, like what's happening, therefore what's the yes, the please, the thank you that needs to happen because of that. So I found that just like making that neat for me really helps, gives me something to order my thoughts into.
Beautiful. Okay, and Karen?
I appreciated just what you said then about the entangler and the entanglee. I think for me, it's the healing motion. It's that we're returning to love, so that it's the idea of disconnection and connection, and the fact that, or that when we become disconnected, we stop from the flow. And so it's just interesting to look at that from aspects like shame and guilt, but also things like perpetrator and victim. And actually, we're not worried. We're just wanting to know, we are the understanding that connection is the place of being, and that's what needs, mending. So, I know that's the fundamental of it all, but it's kind of big in itself when you put it on a everyday living perspective.
That's true, actually. That's true. Yes. Very, very good. Okay. So, last question. Reem, what do you have?
No, I just want to catch you before you end the session because I have 3 questions.
Okay, not the end of the question, but you can ask it now if you want to.
So my first one is for those who are not in this group, but like, for example, for me, like, will I still have access to the video? Can I watch it later?
So you have access to your own group videos. It's the same topics.
Okay. Okay.
You know? So you don't have access to this video because this is another group. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is so for not your client, but in general, if you're talking about adopted child, isn't that isn't it automatically now brought together by destiny? Like they're not now their family, the siblings, for example.
No,
adopted
that's not
children.
automatic. No, there needs to
Okay.
be more than just the adoption.
Okay. The third one is, so what would be, I understand for like, let's say if you want to talk about work or like any constellation for things who are not like partnership or they're not family members, what would be the order of words that's healing? Like as I said, for example, work.
For
If
what
it could-
relationship?
Organization work. Like for example, if I want to do.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Remember,
no, yes, please, thank
we have organizations in module 5, and there, you know, we talk about how we conduct family constellations for organizations. It's of course different. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Any other question? Yes, Connie.
No.
Hi, Maya. You talk about the movement, the gesture, like the hands and the eye contacts and things like that. But in the one-to-one section, you work with figuring. So
yeah.
Then how do we know there's no expression?
You would wonder how many expressions I see in the figurines.
You can see it.
I know. That's just experience, right? It's just experience. But you don't need all of these expressions. One is enough. And when you work with objects, the line of sight and how they are relating to each other and at whom they are looking is often enough. And then, of course, I also work with colors and stuff, but that is all part of Module 5.
Okay.
So now I would like you to think about, not to answer this question, but when you finish the Zoom call, to think about, is there anything of this module that you want to actually incorporate in your daily routine? Oh, yeah, but you can talk about it, Reem. You go.
Well, but everyone said the same thing, like making sure that you don't say please to someone you don't want to bond with, and also not to say sorry. Like this is now I consciously try to do.
Very good, very good, very good. Anybody else wants to share before I leave you with this?
Yeah,
yes, Karen.
I'm going to actively start saying thank you to my parents in my nighttime practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say thank you open-heartedly to the ones that I can. And the ones that I can't, I'm going to say thank you for giving me life.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that will start to shift it, because when I start to feel actual gratitude for that, it might shift. I might be able to more say thanks for nourishing me, even though I can't at the moment. But you know what I mean? Opening that up.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And Karen?
Yeah, I was the same. It's the power of words, and to be more aware of the power of words, and also not just the words that we've discussed, but also aware of the energy, you know, whether they're lifting up or down, that feeling as well.
Very good. I like to hear that. Anybody else? Rosemary?
The active listening part without saying anything.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's true. Very good. Okay, wonderful. So it was lovely to see you here in Module 2. Who am I going to see in Module 3? So Reem, you have all finished Module 3, right? And Charlotte, you as well. And Rosemary as well. Oh, so we are leaving all. We are losing all of you guys. Kerstin. But you're Kerstin. You're staying because you raised your hand. Ah, yeah. Who am I seeing again? Okay. Wonderful. So
thanks for having us. Surrogate group.
Very good. Yeah. So remember, I can't emphasize that enough, to regularly check in with the community site write and share there when you have thoughts. It's the WhatsApp group is not replacing the community site, right? So it's still the chats there are for everyone because there are not many on the WhatsApp group. The most people are on the, we just do our little quizzes and stuff there, but everything that is regarding the training is on the community training side, and the calendar, of course. The calendar that you see, I just remind you, is not showing in your own time zone as long as you're not pressing the plus. This imports it into your own Google Calendar, and then it is in your time zone. Otherwise, it's in New Zealand time. Yeah. And remember, you can download the documents. You can everything to read, and the worksheets if you need more. It's all on the community side as well. And of course, the video recordings will be there soon. In about a week, you can see the video recordings for this group from this module. On for the ones from the other group, you just watch module 2 on your own group. Yeah? Yes, Rosemary.
So we don't have any opportunity to download the worksheets, you just the charts you used in the workshop.
No, they are not for downloading, but you can take screenshots if you want to when you watch it.
Yeah, but I don't have a cell phone. It's okay.
You don't need a cell phone for a screenshot. You use it with your computer. Just Google it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Good.
No, I can show you, Rosemary, once we catch up.
Very good, Kirsty. Okay, so I leave you with this. I see you next time. I'm not quite sure what the next event is, but you look it up on the calendar. And I wish you a lovely rest of the month.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maya. See you
See
soon.
ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.
Bye.